Okay, this morning we're gonna start with panel discussion and a Q&A session after that. So please take this opportunity to ask questions because the moderator and the panelists are a very well-known people in this area. And I would like to introduce you to the moderator. It's none other than Professor Sureshwaran Ramadas, who is the visiting professor at the International University of Malaya Wales, IUMW. He is also the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board of NLTVC, Sdn Bhd. And if for your information, NLTVC is the next generation communication research and development company. And prior to this, he was the founding director and professor at the National Advanced IPv6 Center of Excellence, NAV6 University Science Malaysia. And Professor Sureshwaran has been awarded a few awards, and let me mention that he was awarded the Wireless World Research Forum Fellow in April 2010. This fellowship award was presented in recognition to his contribution in the area of next generation network and IPv6. Malaysia Innovation Award by the Prime Minister in 2007 and again by the Minister of Science and Technology in 2009. These awards were given in recognition for his contribution towards innovation in the area of multimedia conferencing system and real-time advanced security monitoring. He is also awarded the Anugerah Tokoh Negara National Academic Leader for Innovation and Commercialization in 2008 by the Minister of Higher Education. This award is given to an academic in recognition to his contribution to innovation and commercialization in area of science and technology. He's also the Emeritus Chair IPv6 Forum Education Program. Ladies and gentlemen, a very prominent name in this area, Professor Sureshwaran Ramadas. And I will let Professor introduce the panelists to you. Over to you, Professor.
Testing. Okay. Thank you, MC. All my friends who are sitting in the audience, right, it's good to see all of you again. We see each other usually at least once a year at these MYREN or APAN meetings where we all come together to discuss research. So today I've been asked to chair a small panel which will again discuss the main research areas of MYREN. Not all the research areas, but the main first research areas. If we do forget any area, do forgive us. And I've got 7 distinguished guys friends, researchers, and I'd like to introduce them and invite them on stage. First is Kamal Hisham Kamaruddin. All of you know him. He's the guy who's managing the MYREN network. Anytime there's a problem, he's the guy you call. Can I invite Prof. Dato Halima? Dato Halima is the head of visual informatics. Dato Halima is very vocal and she's been pushing the ministry to give us more and more funding. Hopefully we'll get more funding this year. And Dr. Suhaidi, Professor Dr. Suhaidi Hassan from UUM, he runs the Internetworks Working Group. Dr. Suhaidi is a fun guy, he's a good guy to know. He'll make sure you have a good time. He lives at the border. Professor Dr. Suhaimi Nafis. Suhaimi heads the Identity Crisis Group. But the good thing is, wife has maintained the crisis and changed it into the Confederation, the Identity Federation. And now we'd like to invite his wife, Associate Professor Dr. Farida. You all know her as the cultural expert. She's the one who organizes the dances, the talks, the music shows for you all. Do we have one today, Farida? Yesterday, today, tada. Okay, okay. And then we have Ling, my old good friend Ling. Where is he? He's always hiding. Here we have Professor Ling. Now, Professor Ling, he's an expert in networks, and I can't read, Ling, what they wrote here for you. But he's basically an expert in networks. So anything to do with networks, protocols, software-defined networks, he's the guy you want to come and look for. A good guy. He is still at UM, right? Still at UM. Okay. And lastly, I'd like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Lakshmi. Dr. Lakshmi? And Dr. Lakshmi is with the Educational and Technology Research. UM, right? Monash. Okay, she's with Monash University. I've not had a lot of interactions with her yet. I know it's so relatively new to the MYREN team. Okay. Okay, so we have a group of distinguished people. And what we'll do is we'll allow each one of you can say a short piece, and then we'll have Q&A from the floor. Okay, so I'll let everyone introduce themselves and tell a little bit about what they do. Come on.
Hi, all. My name is Kamal. I'm basically been with MYREN from day one of operation, way back in 28th of March 2005. I know some of us here, like Prof. Suresh, Dr. Ling, and Dr. Suhaimi, has been part of the planning team of MYREN and the previous REN as well, Teman and all. My function initially started with managing operation of the network, and it's actually evolved towards management of the whole project. And I'm currently with Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, or previously known as MSC Malaysia. That's about it.
Oh, okay. I'm Suhaimi Nafis. I'm from UPM. I'm a plant molecular biologist by training, but has since, together with Prof. Suresh, he's practically the one that is drawing me into the network with the Teman, and then I remember vividly Teman 2 project. So I was the only application guy, and has since become, I don't know what you call it, it's a jack of all trades, master of none. I hate what was called the GRID Cloud Identity Working Group, but because GRID is now in the cloud, so I dropped the cloud, I dropped the GRID to just say Identity and Federated Science Cloud. Thank you.
Suhaimi is proof that you don't have to be in networks to be part of MYREN and to enjoy the facilities of MYREN. So Suhaimi has always been there from an application viewpoint. And he's been many different applications. You know, he gets into whatever he likes, his passion drives him, and then he uses MYREN to support his passion. So some of you here may not be directly involved in networks. Doesn't matter. You are part of the MYREN community. Friday?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. My name is Suhaidi Hassan. My friend Dr. Hasbullah mentioned just now, like when you mention your name, we have to be stop in the middle, you know, maybe should again mention Suhaidi Hassan. Yeah? I'm heading the MYREN Internetworks working group. Basically, a working group to complement all the network research activities, initiative taken by other group, and we support each other. My engagement with MYREN started from also the early days of MYREN with other, mostly the IEEE friends, yeah. In addition to definitely our, Dr. Swaibi, Dr. Suresh, and other friends. And it was that time during under the leadership of Dato Halim Shafi'i, who was then the KSU of Ministry of Energy, Water and Communications. And then, alhamdulillah, we have seen the growth of MYREN until today, and inshallah, we have seen also, we will see MYREN is transformed as the, inshallah, the service provider to the education and research community in Malaysia one day. Yeah. So thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. I'm Halima Badiuzaman. I want to tell you a little bit about how the Institute of Visual Informatics grew. We started as a little working group at MYREN in 2007, and I still remember we had the first Visual Informatics International Conference in 2009, and it was at that conference that it was mooted out that an institute should be set up within this field. And it was then that we put this up to the university, particularly to University Kebangsaan Malaysia, and the institute was formed in 2012, just 4 years ago. So you can see how it had grown from a little research group that actually joined MYREN, and worked very hard, and actually had been able to grow. And this is something that I think that perhaps friends out there can think about how you can actually do the very same thing. I also am currently the head of ICT Cluster, National Professors Council, or the Majlis Profesor Negara. And because of that, I'm able to see the picture for ICT in the country. And I think that's very challenging for me at the moment. And then there's a lot of things that we're doing, and perhaps when the question time after, I'll be able to tell you where ICT is going for the country and what are the things that I'm actually working on, which is actually very much challenging for the country in terms of nation building as today that we're talking about. I think that we're talking about nation building, particularly towards a high nation building we're talking. So I think there's a lot of things afterwards that perhaps we can discuss together. Thank you.
So Dr. Halima is very passionate about the area and the work. So she is proof that no matter how small you start, as long as we have the passion to drive it, we can actually drive it and move forward the agenda. And honestly, her institute has grown from a very small institute over the last few years. She's got now 57 PhD students. So that's really, really good, given the time frame that she's had. So shows every one of you passion drives. Dr. Farida?
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum, good morning. I'm Farida from UM. I actually started work with, dabbling with e-culture in 2005 and 6 when we were, I think the first phase of MYREN, we were invited to talk about what e-culture is all about. That was in Korea as in Japan. And with that initiative, I think APEN, Asia Pacific Advanced Network, started the e-culture working group. I was then the co-chair. So when we came back to Malaysia, we started another group under MYREN. But today, e-culture has evolved into another working group called the Digital Cultural Heritage and Humanities Working Group. It is actually an application working group in which we hope to encompass all the applications under social science and humanities. So if you were here yesterday, that is part of what we do. I'm passionate about digitizing cultural heritage for future generation. But other things, we have also another subgroup in digital media under Dr. Nurul, who sang yesterday. Then we have Dr. Karim from UPM working on food culture. And on social media, we have Dr. Xavier Thailand from UITM, and we have e-culture working group again. So it is sub under that. So we hope that all of you can join us, because actually e-culture or culture belongs to everybody, and you do not have to be an expert because you are an expert in your own culture. Thank you.
So Dr. Farida should be accredited with the fact that she really started the whole e-culture behind APAN. You know, she brought it in, she actually did the first remote e-culture presentation. And from there, of course, APAN, I think there was some hijacking by other groups who started doing things similar to her. But she was the founding person, the creative idea behind the whole thing. And till date, her performances are always very exciting. We always look forward to seeing her. She has all musicians from all around the world, singers from all around the world, dancers from all around the world. So even during APAN meetings, we always look forward to her presentations, where she has all of these inter-world cultural activities, which once again are carried by networks. Another proof, the fact that you don't have to be in the technology area. A lot of times when I call people, I say, why aren't you participating in MYREN? They say, oh, it's technical, we are not networking people. You don't need to be. You just need to use networks. Right? Ling?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Ling. I joined pre-MYREN, not MYREN. And since young, right? Since we were young. Only two of us joined pre-MYREN, I think, not anybody else. So mostly, I think we are in this organization for more than about 20 years, something like this. So we started since the early days of ATM. If you don't know what is ATM, it is auto teller machine, Maybank outside that. It's the asynchronous transfer mode, the protocols. So we started that, and then later on we continue with the MYREN projects up to now. So currently I'm heading the Network and Distributed System Group. We have a big collaboration with the Southeast Asia, Japan, Taiwan, Korea, and some other countries. So please visit our booth, and then you know what we are doing, especially the software-defined network things, and also the data-intensive computing center, and so on. So welcome to our booth.
So Dr. Ling looks very fierce. You look at him, very fierce looking, right? But he's actually a very nice guy. He's a very fun guy to be with. Right? So all you young researchers, you can go by his booth and talk to him. Dr. Lakshmi?
Good morning, everyone, to Prof. Suresh, friends and colleagues who are here. I'm Lakshmi Selvaratnam. I'm the chair of the, probably the new kid on the block working group, Education, Technology and Research, together with my co-chair, Professor Akendu Sen, who was here, I think, yesterday. I think, as mentioned, we were probably one of the latest to join the MYREN working group family, I think about maybe almost under 3 years ago. And I must credit Ms. Liana, together with support from Kamal, for their support and encouragement. Okay, for my background, I'm an anatomist. I was in University of Malaya for about 11 years, and in the last 10 years at Monash, Malaysia, where we set up the new medical school and new medical program. So it was like, we're in the medical line, we're teaching allied health sciences and medicine. So I also couldn't really see initially how we could contribute, but I think more and more, as I feel MYREN brings us all together, and there's a focus for our activities and to highlight and showcase what we are doing. So in respect, our group has grown. I think you saw some of the work that we were doing at Monash, Malaysia, and so at the moment, our educational technology and research working group, as I said, is somewhat small. We have 3 sub-working groups. The first one is on surgical and clinical professional education, headed by Professor Robert Penafort, or from Monash, and also Professor Akendu Sen, also from Monash, Malaysia. The second group is on allied health science education, which includes nursing and pharmacy. We have Mr. David Ong from IMU, and we have Prof. Khatijah Abdullah from University Malaya. And the third group is veterinary education, and that is headed by Prof. Sharifah Said Hassan from Monash, and we also have Dr. Rosanna from the Department of Veterinary Science, Ministry of Agriculture, right? So those are the 3 major groups. We actually are a small but very dedicated, committed group. We're looking not just at higher education, technology and higher education, we're also very much interested in post-secondary education. We actually had one small subgroup for pre-university, but we need to reinstate that. And also continuous professional development, because we feel that's a big area that technology perhaps can help. Our main objectives of our working group are in relation to adapting technology for collaborative learning, looking at devices, strategies in which we can encourage collaborative learning, and some of that was discussed yesterday. And also, if you come to our booth, we will highlight the network classroom environment that we're looking at, which we feel can be adapted in many ways across different educational groupings. So whether be it higher education or post-secondary or even further down the primary school chain and so on. So, and the third area actually is in relation to distance learning. So we feel that we need to be more inclusive. We're talking about nation building, I think being more inclusive to include rural and remote learners. And I think this is where distance education can play a big part. So I think, for instance, we highlighted the community skills workshop that we did between KL Selangor and Johor Bahru and to Thailand as well, with some of our nursing collaborators as an example. Right? So we look forward to future engagement with other institutes and as well as with the other working groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi. So we've heard now from all the working group chairs that are around here, and I think we will open up for questions from the audience. But before we do that, I want to ask a question. Right? What does MYREN stand for? Liana, we got gifts, huh? Liana will give you a present when you leave in. Liana will give it to you. So, yeah. What does MYREN stand for? Wrong. Anyone else? Any of the panelists? Dato'? Ya kak. Suhaidi will know. Suhaidi apa tu?
Suhaidi lah.
It's a Malaysian Research and Fund Network.
Okay. Liana, gift. Okay, so Malaysian Research and Fund Network, right? Why? We have fun at all our meetings. Honestly speaking, when you go to all these MYREN meetings, you look at all the lunch tables, most of us will be laughing. You'll be talking among each other, you'll be laughing, you'll be doing fun things. And the research we do is generally associated with fun. You know, we are never a very serious group. Serious in our work, but when it comes to interacting and playing and having fun, we are always there. same at all our meetings, and we have one of the strongest participations at APAC, the Asia Pacific Advanced Networks, which we are very closely associated with. Yeah, actually, MYREN was created in order for us to be part of the TIAN and APAN link. That was one of the founding pushes for the reason for creating MYREN. Right? And if you go to all these meetings around the region, you will see that the Malaysian group or the Malaysian contingent is always there. Malaysian contingent is always sitting there having fun. We're always laughing and interacting with everyone else. So remember, Malaysian Research and Fun Network. Okay. Huh? Can I invite questions from the floor? We have a microphone sitting right there. First person to ask a question will receive another present from Liana.
The robot is the robot.
I can see Nawa already feeling itchy. He cannot sit quietly in his chair. He has to go and ask a question, right, Nawa? That you have to talk to Liana. But yes, you are guaranteed a gift. Microphone, please.
Okay, good morning. My name is Navanitha. Basically, when all of you have spoke about what you have gone through since the inception of MYREN, what is the future for MYREN? This slide down. What is the next 5 or 10 years plan for MYREN and where we are heading? In terms of the network, of course, and also in terms of the activities. Thank you.
It's a very good question. It's a question that is in all our minds as well. Huh? So maybe Kamal? Kamal, can maybe talk on the network side of it?
Yes, I think I can shed some light on what is currently being planned as far as the infrastructure is concerned. Let me bring you back when we started the whole project. When we started the whole project, our backbone is 45 megabit per second. That was in MYREN 1. As far as infrastructure is concerned, and the members are connected from 1 megabit. I think the lowest was UMS, and the highest was all the RDUs with 8 megabit per second. That was in 2005. Then during that time, we don't manage the network. It's actually being managed by the service providers. We typically just the end users. We can't do anything to change it as far as configuration, settings, and everything. So when we move to MYREN 2, we upgrade the network connectivity to 622 megabit per second. So it's a jump from 45 to 622. And our members are connected from 10 megabit per second to 50 megabit per second. I'm talking about universities here. And the 50s are RUs. When we move to MYREN 3, our backbone is now at 40 gigabit per second. So it's a jump from 622, previously 622, to 40 gigabit per second. Members are connected from, I think as far as universities is concerned, from 1 gigabit per second to 2 gigabit per second. What are we heading next? I think as far as change is concerned, if you look at the other research and education network, some research and education network are now starting to provide services for access to non-research and education traffic, which means if you want to go to Google, YouTube, or yahoo.com, hopefully Yahoo is still there, you can actually access it using MYREN. And we have taken the same approach towards giving you access to those sites via MYREN. And I think it's going to move upwards. The trend is going to move upwards. And for us to have these upward trends and at the same time at a manageable cost, we need to have access to the fundamental of the infrastructure, which is the fiber itself. So the ministry, as far as our engagement with the ministry, we are trying to push for us to get an access to the dark fiber itself. So we want to lead the fiber on our own. That is what we are pushing for. If we can actually get it, so capacity or bandwidth is actually depends on our end equipments. So we can lead it at 100 gig or 200 gig. It's actually depend on us, very much depend on us. The other thing that we are looking at is how we can create science DMZ. I think the focus is not so much, not only on the usage for education, which is a typical traffic that you do for browsing, file transfer, sending email, but also to focus, we being a research education network, shall be able to cater for, I would say, research work. So this is where we are looking at Science DMZ, where we provide a high-speed capacity, a dedicated one that is very flexible for use of research. That is totally separated from the typical lane that we reserve or we put our normal traffic is. That is what we are aiming for. I don't think it's too far. I think the recent announcement by the Prime Minister on 2017 budget, talking about 100 gig to public universities, is actually a very positive input towards what we may hear during the next future. That's about it.
Thank you. So Kamal has given a very in-depth view of what the infrastructure of MYREN is going to be in the next 5 years to 10 years at least.
I just want to add to the Science DMZ. Actually, there will be a lightning talk at 11:40, Science Cloud, by myself, I think. So this relates back to when Kamal mentioned about Science DMZ or DMZ, which Science DMZ or Science DMZ. This is where you need to have what I call as elephant traffic transfer. Elephant traffic transfer, you're talking about gigabytes of files being transferred without firewall. But without firewall, meaning that the Science DMZ itself has got a secure way of doing it, whereby people on campus will not be bogged down by the elephant traffic interfering in their network. So the Science DMZ will enable the Science Cloud to reside, and all the sciences will remain there, and all the science files will remain there. And if you are from inside the campus, you will have access to that, and only individuals have access to that without actually hovering over the traffic of the campus. So there, it's like having, how should I, Kamala? It's like having a depot with containers, and you can pick it up. Because if the containers were to go into the inside traffic, then you will have issues relating to them disturbing your normal daily traffic. So Science Cloud transcend from the current MYREN infrastructure. MYREN has got MYREN Cloud. But moving on is actually, when we talk about MYREN, you're talking about cyber infrastructure. And that is what is being pushed, whereby not only that it provides network, it provides compute, it provides storage. Okay, so compute, network, storage. That is what the trend of all the RANs, having their own private cloud. Of course, extension to public cloud, if necessary, the hybrid way. Thank you.
I have a different view on this. For me, MYREN is my research and education network. It is yours. If you keep on asking us what is the future, let me tell you, this is actually among us short sendiri only one. Suhaimi want to have DMZ here, Kamal want to have 100 gig and so on. But what to do with you? Correct? So I want to kick this ball back to you. What actually you want? What do you want to do with MYREN? Correct? So you think about that, and then you can anytime come to talk to any one of us. If you dare to tell us that you do need a data lake, petabyte. Yesterday, Tan Jingwei was talking about peta scale. You come and talk to us, and then you justify yourself. Then we know, oh, there is somebody really needs something there. Then we work towards that, right? So when I started, I say I need 1 gig to Korea. So Kamal have to go and look for a way how to get 1 gig to Korea. And we proved that, okay, we need this type of environment and facility. So please try not to keep on asking us what we think about the future of MYREN. I think it's time you think about what is the future of MYREN that you need, and then you let us know. And then we work together and we build the nation together. Is it okay? Better? Then the next question will be, what do you want already? You know, you better prepare and everyone will answer the question. Huh?
Very insightful from Ling. So, MYREN is also what you want out of it and what you would like to see out of it. So, for example, if I still remember Farida, in the beginning, about 5 years ago when we did at Dr. Halima's center, we did the first MYREN workshop. She said, I want to put e-culture all the way from USM here, there, and then she came and she said, Kamal brought in the infrastructure and the bandwidth somehow or other managed. I brought in the video conferencing with my guys at USM those days. So we all got together and make things happen for Farida. You see? So she said, I have an idea. I have a thing. I want to do this. Can you all support and get it done for us? And we did it. So in that same sense is what Ling is trying to say. What is your idea? You have an idea, you have something, you can bring it to the team, and each of us will try to see how we can help you realize that idea.
Yeah, about Farida, you know, she put in a request to APEN. She requires 5 gigabits per second transmission line across Pacific and Europe. So what they did was they did Brazil, Spain, and Taiwan. Correct. A cultural show in between Brazil, Spain, and Taiwan, which require 5 gigabits of transmissions. During that time, the Taiwanese, they are providing 10 gigabits, but at 10 times 1 gig link, which cannot actually support what she needs. She needs 1 link at 5 gigabits. But the whole community work out, and then at last they get 10 gig line across the Pacific and to Europe. That is what from the requirement.
Well, I have to say something now. They're talking about me, right? Well, we've done several cyber performances. I have to say that I have to credit this to D.Y. Kim, who actually started cyber performances across Korea to other countries. He called it Dancing Queen. And when he was the chairman of APEN, and before that actually I grabbed him and he was in the e-culture working group. So he says, Farida, let's do cyber performances. I say, can. You know, I'm only the middle sales person here. I'll coordinate, but we have technical people, we need artists. So we had Prof. Gu, then he was with KAIST, and he was actually the co-chair of our e-culture group, and he, I have to say, has already done for us about 5 or 6 boutique cyber performances, meaning none of them were actually repeated. He changed the software, he changed the system, we had different partners, but throughout the 6 or 7 performances that we have some very tegar, very good partners who were with us all the way. In the beginning it was Salvador, Brazil, and then now we have Czech Republic, you saw yesterday doing the cyber performances. So the main aim was that in the beginning was just to test the network. But now artists are saying, fine, your network can work, but now we want the network to work the way we want. So when I move my hands, when I dance that way, I don't want it to go tick, 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 tick. I want to move this way. So the other thing is latency, and that's the other thing that we have to work about. You know, I think so far we have been able to manage 0.03 seconds latency so far. But of course, like yesterday when you saw what happened, we can be so perfect on the days that we trial run, but on the actual day we might have sound system. Last year when we had APEN cyber performance, it was raining, cloud, thunder and cloud and whatever not. But those are behind the scenes, which I think we can tell you another story. But The main idea is to test the network, see whether the artists can actually get their performance across. So last year in APEN was the first time that Dr. Nurul sang. We always had dances, we had music, but we've never had a solo, singing. So this is the second time, so I think it works. But it's always an adrenaline rush whenever we want to have it done. And to be honest, we talked about yesterday cyber performance for 2 months. We tried to get it between USM and MYREN here, and we wanted to also have Japan. But this is what happens. This is the fun bit, and exciting, and sometimes the worrying bit. Who actually will do it at their, in the final performance? So Czech came in on Sunday. Can you imagine that? We've been talking about this, and Czech was saying, yes, we'll come, yes, we'll come. Who's going to play? Are we playing music, or do you want to play music and we have a singer? You went dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. Only yesterday morning at 9 a.m. that we have everything finalized. Okay? And the other thing that we had was, remember MYREN? We had the cyber performance with the group that found this lost instrument, the lost sounds they call it. And we had dancers in Malaysia. So when they were testing out, okay, I just to show you what happens, right? So the dancers performed, the music played at the back, but the dancers were still dancing and the music stopped. So it was not until the final dance, okay, that the music stopped at the same time the dancers stopped. Okay, so these are the things that's a fun thing, and that's a challenge for the artists, technicians, as well as the performers. Okay, so we need your support to give us ideas, to show us what you can do. We are looking for even commercial, technology people to come in and to test out the equipment, because we want to test the network as well, give you a chance, the floor, to actually demonstrate what capacity your machines can do with us for the cyber performances and even any of the e-culture stuff that we are doing. Okay, over back to you.
Very good. I think that covers anyone else? Oh, Toto?
Yes, I think what Dr. Farida has been saying to you is something very interesting, that you've seen for yourself what it can be done. You talk about the future. It's not just future for MYREN, it's future for all of us who are actually using MYREN, I think. It is important for us to understand that things are moving really very, very fast. We talk about 5 years, and I think 5 years is really too soon. Before we know it, it is gone. I think the last 5 years went so fast, and we see the technology moving in so fast as well. Today we call ourselves, we are in the digital era, we say, right? How fast it was like 5 years ago. We were still what we called information society, which we not only, I don't think we really felt it, that we were in an information society. An information society we call ourselves, but we also tell ourselves that we were knowledge society at the same time. I always tell people that we actually moved so fast that today we don't even realize that we are moving towards a smart society, ? Are we really smart? Just because we have all these devices that we have now. And these devices will have to be supported by the network. And we're not talking just about, I think Lim was right. We're just not talking about, megabytes. We're now going into zettabytes, yottabytes, and everything else. That whether eventually the network will have to support. And we're talking about today sharing of data. Everything that we put out, even the dances that we're going to put out, we perhaps will be putting out data as well that we all can share. And it is so important that we're now in a data-driven environment, as we say. Whoever we are, whether we are researchers, whether we are a government that is running the country, whether we are, an association, an NGO that's running whatever we want to passionate about, it doesn't matter, or researchers doing certain research that we're doing. With sensors becoming even cheaper, I think everything, and we don't even talk about IoT, you know, Internet of Things, and people are already now talking about Internet of Nano Things, you know. So the number of data that we're going to transmit, I think, is just so tremendous, and there's so many things that we can do in 5 years, I see, you know, because today we are already distributing data. We talk about data lakes just now, yeah? I think we all have no choice to be part of that data lake, whether we like it or not. You know, this is true and this is real. I was just, you know, I was supposed to be talking about data-driven government yesterday, which I was not able to do because I was actually, I had you know, an appointment that I had to do, that I had to miss that particular function. And I know that as a data-driven government today, I think we have no choice to ensure that we have access to data that can actually help us to make decisions. And I think MYREN has a big role to play after this. You know, how can we support data that we're going to share and share, not just within the country, but within nations. We talk about nation building. We need that data to build our nation. When we talk about nation building, it's very much to do with modernization. And yet, when we talk about modernization, we can't run away from culture, you know, which is so much a part of us. Culture, economic, politics, and of course, you know, again, when we talk about all that, again, we come back to sharing of data. So I think sharing of data is absolutely crucial, whether we want to share that data or not. I don't know how among us, whether we want to share our data, whether we're ready to share that data, whether all these working groups here, you know, we have 12 working groups today, and I think there's so much that we can share with each other. I was walking at each of the groups this morning, and as I was going through, I see a lot of overlapping things that we could actually work together, you know? And these are actually very interesting data that we can actually acquire from each other so that we can improve things, so that we can actually make things better for the nation, make things better for, not just for us as researchers, but make things better for the people in the country, making better for the community. And I think that's what we all are here for. Every research that we're doing, we're making it better for the community. And this is where MYREN plays a very important role, I think, in connecting us, in connecting us, researchers, and eventually it'll be connecting the community as well, I think, at the end of the day, for the things that we're doing. And the first thing that we must do, I think, after this is actually to share whatever data that we have, which is really something very important and something that we need to get out of this mindset of thinking that our data is ours. And for as long as we think that way, then the network is not going to be useful to all of us. I think we must get out of that paradigm, you know, that paradigm shift of thought to think that we now no longer can work in silos. We have these working groups, yes. We welcome other working groups among you who are here. And I think we need as many working groups as possible so that we can actually share. I was just talking with some of them this morning. In UKM itself, we have 180 research groups, you know. And can you imagine, and I'm sure the rest of the universities have about the same, UPM, MU, USM, and the rest of the universities, Monash, you know, so it is with other universities. Can you imagine the wealth of data that we have? The wealth of data that we can actually share together through this network that we have, which is ours, you know? So again, it is true. It's all up to us and all up to you. The future is in your hands, and we have to do it now. The journey is actually now. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just say something, just reflecting back on what the others have said as well. I think if you look back, I remember when, as I said, we were quite new to join MYREN. I think a lot of us don't realize, I think when we're in higher education and various institutes or colleges, that your university or institution is a subscriber to MYREN. I think most of the public universities obviously are under this umbrella. I think on the private sector, Monash was one, and I think we didn't even quite realize. I think it sort of came about, you know, in terms of being an academic. Okay, there may be some who are aware, but I think that's one thing perhaps MYREN needs to do is perhaps that general sense of awareness. I think towards for academic and administrative staff. sorry, don't my words, is to actually create more awareness of MYREN. I think the other thing is also to perhaps, if we could engage our IT departments more. We did sort of invite a lot of them. When we have issues, they're the first port of call, right? So let's say, for example, if you're looking at the research side of MYREN, some of my colleagues have had issues with, basically transmitting big data, sort of like with bioinformatics. So one of the things is we tend to go straight to our own IT department. And then sometimes we are sort of somewhat limited by what we have available, and we don't sort of think of looking towards MYREN and perhaps, creating opportunities for solving these issues and problems. So that's one of the things. As a researcher, as an academic, you may find that there are things that, there are lots of innovations and ideas. I think Malaysia is not short of that, okay? But sometimes if we want to sort of get it out there and across, or communicate it, or get it onto a higher level, we need that kind of connectivity. Perhaps just one thing I could add from some of my experiences in Thailand, for example, is that their infrastructure obviously is very good in terms of connectivity. And it's not just the higher education institutes, polytechnics, colleges, but also the hospitals are all connected. Almost all the schools are connected. So once we have that kind of connectivity, I think then really the world's the limit.
If I may add, I'm the last one to speak in the second round. When you mentioned about Thailand just now, it is interesting to know that whenever the connectivity to link the universities didn't work in a normal way, what they did is they get the royal decree to have the universities, to have the institution connected. So this is how serious Thailand is. So that is why we have all these institutions connected. And they will be ahead of us. Vietnam will be ahead of us. Indonesia will be ahead of us. So when we talk about what is next, the next for me is, I think, is not only the advances in connectivity, what Kamal mentioned, but also the next will be more on the challenges that we need to face. They need to face. Not only within the MYREN community, but also as internet users as a whole. Today, 23rd of November, ISOC, I'm the chair of ISOC Malaysia. ISOC Global is releasing. I mean today they published what we call the Global Internet Report. In the Global Internet Report, the list. One of the main challenge is on the trust, data breach. I agree that what Dato' Halimah mentioned just now about sharing of data. But the challenge, one of the challenge will be how do we ensure that the data is protected? And the next, probably when Nawa asks about the next 5 years, what is next? The challenge can come from these three domains that we already know. We have big data, we have the cloud, and we have the IoT, right? So IoT, Internet of Things, the hard things, the soft things, this will definitely generate a lot of data. And we know that this will be 50 billion of devices will be connecting to the internet, projected to be in a few years to come. Not only that, we will have a challenge in terms of the content. The zettabyte of content, of data will be flowing, and this will give an impact. So if we, let's say, the next 5 years, the connectivity will be 100 megabit per second to our universities, for example, and 100 gigabit per second to our universities. So that may not be enough when we have all these billion of devices connected. So it's like money, People ask how much money is enough? So I keep asking my students, how much money is enough? So the answer probably just a little bit more, right? Just a little bit more. There will never be enough. So how to make it enough? Then we need probably to be to know, to share whatever with this which we have in common. But sharing must take into the consideration of the security, of the trust issues, and so on. Interestingly, we have, for example, in the UK, there is a survey that there's so many people do not trust the internet. Yeah. So, in the academic world, I can see for the past, I would say, few years with with MYREN, our experience with MYREN, how many researchers, how many academicians don't trust MYREN? Yeah? Don't trust MYREN means that probably you say, MYREN, we have another pipe bigger than MYREN, which we can use. I have the same, the same argument with even my university officials. So we have a bigger pipe. Why should we use MYREN? Yeah? This is one of the things, trust to the infrastructure, but trust in terms of data and so on. So this is probably the challenge in the next, 5 years or probably 10 years to come. When we talk about the future of MYREN. Yeah. Thank you.
Good input from every panelist. Question was good, the answers were good. We've had some foresight. I think MYREN's future is well defined in the sense of, or especially infrastructure, but in the sense of, and I have to be honest, in the sense of research funding, we are asking, Liana is fighting the ministry day by day to try to make sure that we get some funding or allocations for research. Okay, so let's give her full support. And yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, 30 seconds. We all talk about the future, 5 years or whatever. It is not 5 years. I'm addressing human security now by Sifulan. So to know more about Sifulan, go down at the far end there and I'll explain to you.
Okay. 30 seconds. Suhaimi needs to know now because he's retiring next year, right? Okay, any more questions? Can I have another question from the audience? Liana, can I give another free gift? Can, okay, good. One more gift. You get a free gift just to ask a question. They all want to ask a question. Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Hasbullah from UM. What Dr. Halimah mentioned about sharing data is, it's quite interesting, because what happened to us in LRGS grant, we need to buy data from government agencies. That's the sad but true things. All right, the sharing of data. I'm sure that we all have Dropbox accounts, Google Drive accounts, right? So I think if we have this kind of services that MYREN can offer, I would love to, the data belongs to Malaysia, because now it's everywhere. Maybe in US, we don't know. And hopefully that this I was very interested at when MYREN said that, oh yeah, we can host that. We can give about 50 gigs, come on, I think.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Wait. And then if we have that in MYREN, I think it is very beneficial for us. And also, if you can think of, if the final year project student can be hosted using MYREN, it's very, very much beneficial to us. Thank you.
Okay, because part of that on disk is actually 50 gig, and it's been going on for more than how many years? 5 years? 5 years. No doubt it is not as sexy as Dropbox. But during the time when we launched it 5 years ago, Dropbox wasn't even around. Drive wasn't even around. One disk wasn't even around. So we are in the process of building up what they call it a corporate Dropbox in the future, in the next MYREN, what we call MYREN, codename MYREN X. So for the moment, if you are okay with ModBuild, okay with a normal Java base, slowly, you can get 50 gig now even. Right, Diana? We have that 50 gig on this already, and we still got so many because there's supposed to be 10,000 people receiving 50 gig each, right? So that is the thing that we have now. But moving into the future, we're going to make it easier and simpler for that purpose. And data sharing relates to trust, and trust relates to identity vetting. And that's what I did with Sifulan, identity vetting. Of each and every transaction, you have to be accessed by identity vetting. Go down to the last hole there. Yeah.
The way I want to approach this is, if you look at a group of researchers, of users, they have different demands. I mean, even the working groups are different in terms of what they do, the requirements of them. That's why they're probably looking at the flow data within the network. That's why I mean a lot of things. I don't know what he wants. Prof. Dato is looking at how to improve communication and video conferencing. That's how we helped the institute previously. Culture is looking at how we can support one-off event kind of thing. Dr. Ling is looking at network technologies, SDN. Dr. Suresh is looking at IPv6. We have done that. I think we have reached that. He's now looking at how we can do trainings, talent development. Prof. Lashmi is looking at how she can use MYREN in terms of medical works that she loves to do. So in terms of data transfer, you are looking at storage as one thing, and the ability to transfer huge data from one person to the other.
Okay.
So part of the development work that we are currently doing is file sender service. So what we want to do, I think we are going to launch it soon, but the critical part is actually on the identity, which we haven't got yet, and it's also about time that we can have Sifulan running. We are going to have a file sender service where if you want to transfer, because some of the data is very sensitive. It's sensitive to you. You don't want to put it somewhere because whether you trust it or not is a different issue. It depends on the owner of the data. So the new services that we want to provide is you can put up the data for about a week or a month, for example. You can just put it on the server for about whatever time that you want. Then you just send the URL and all the people that you want can actually download it. Yeah. So this is a file sender services, and it's actually quite famous in other research and education network. We are looking at to implement it. I think give us about within this year, so we can actually launch it. We have it running, but we're just looking at the authentication part. That is that we are looking at.
Thank you so much for that question. I think I'm drawn to say something about this. One of the areas that visual informatics look at is actually the visual data intelligent analytics that we do. And that means we look into data analytics that is in relation to medicine, health, particularly health diseases, yeah, dengue or whatever, cancer, the rest of it, and many other data analytics on transport, on economics, on cost of living, on the rest of it. Now, doing those sort of things means definitely there is a need for sharing of data. And you're right, I think it's not just trust that we're talking about here, We're talking about exceptions to the rule, where you can share data, but there are things that you can't share, things that actually affect sovereignty of the country, things that affect security of the country, you know, so there's many things there. And I must say that at the moment, we have not had that in place. The country has not had that in place. We now have the Personal Data Protection Act, yes, but we still do not have Data Protection Act generally, that's one. Two, we do not have the Freedom of Information Act. Selangor has started with the Freedom of Information Enactment. Penang has started with the Freedom of Information Bill. This is something that the country has to look at because the rest of the world have begun to start to have that. And the rest of the world too depends on the districts and councils. UK, for instance, every district and every council has got its own FOI or its own Data Protection Act. I think this is something that we have to look into clearly. And when we say that, which means that once we are willing, because I think today we look at it and we say how important it is. There's a lot of work that we're doing at Visual Informatics. We find that it's not possible to get some data sets sometimes. Why? Because people are not ready to share. And the data sets that we use are some data sets that people are willing to share. And those are data sets that are not even relevant to us. Because the one that is really relevant to the country is actually very difficult to acquire. Most of the hospitals won't give us some of the data that we need, you know, and so it is with the statistics department or even police department, you know, or customs department, the rest of it. So it's very, very difficult to get data. As and when until we have the governance in place, the policies in place, I think there will still be a great challenge for us in terms of sharing. But again, I think the effort has got to be put there. And as long as we start showing that we need to share, I think things will be slowly moving. And as and unless we ourselves, researchers, show that we don't need it, then I think that's the time when no one will do anything about it, you know? So this is something that we need to seriously, as researchers, put forward our needs, you know, to tell whoever it is in the country that we need to share, there is a need to share, and if we want to solve big problems in the country, we want to share, what do we say, things like floods, what else, earthquakes, big things that are happening in the country, we need to share those data, you know? We need to get access to data before we can actually prepare for, you know, plans to improve and mitigate whatever that we need to do to help the country. Thank you.
Hi. Is this working? Yes. I'd like to pick up what Datuk said just now. I was thinking about it. I think I'm not really addressing what you asked, but I'd like to just bring a little bit forward the word challenge. So now if you're talking about MYREN in the future, and the present future is now, what is the challenge for us in working groups? I can address, I'd like to try to address actually from the part of applications. For example, cyber performances. We need the technical people to work with us. We need the artists to work with us. So there is this link that we have together, which I think the technical people will prepare the vessel, and for us, the content developers will have to fill that vessel with our data and with our content. So the challenge now for for all of us, and especially for the application, social science and humanities, is how do we fill up the vessel with content that is worthy, you know, of the vessel being built up for us. That is why I think we have to have this long-term plan, short-term plan on how to get things moving. I would have to say for the e-culture and then now turn to DCHH working group, it is very challenging to get people to understand what we are doing. When we showcase to them the digitization of mass, we have the cyber performance, they understand what we're doing then. But after that, getting them back to join us is another problem. They will say, oh, you know, I'm not a culture person, this is not my area, I don't know how to contribute. You know, when you are in Facebook, in your social media, you are contributing. The point here is contribute to us so that we can archive it, we can keep it, and then for future retrieval, we can see these are the kind of things that youth are doing. youth today are the older generation of tomorrow. So that's why we have the youth workshop to find more shakers and movers so that they can take our take over our role and lead what we are doing and meet the challenge of challenging the people in the technology to come up with things that we can use. At the moment, they can do. Hardware people are really good. You know, they can do this and that, but they need to know what is it that we want. So the challenge is, what do we challenge them to get for us? Just now, Prof. was talking about, you know, the cyber performance. We need quick things, okay? We need on demand. Okay, what do we do? But other things, for example, when you are digitizing cultural heritage, what is it that you want? Then this is where we have to actually provide them with the ideas. I want this, I want to see it this way. Now, can you actually do it for me? Now I'm working on digital cultural atlas. The point here is there's so limited software out there that's free. And I would like to have the GIS information. I would like it to be able to be retrieved, but not stuck to a particular domain that later it will be converted and I have to pay and I cannot get back my data. So that's one challenge that I want. I want a cultural atlas which I can leave behind and people can still put in, and it is not, one day saying, I'm sorry, it's closed. You now have to, pay us, and I don't want that. So what is the challenge? That is the challenge, one of the challenges of many things. So that's it. If I would ask to pose a question to the panelists here, what's your challenge to MYREN?
Kamal. So I think from a storage viewpoint, Kamal has the servers, and as he has explained, he is preparing to allocate big amounts of space for researchers. Approximately how much space do we have in total? Per researcher, per research group, per server. So and what is the total capacity that we are planning to have? 400 terabytes. So you have over 400 terabytes of data space that MYREN will be providing. And, with this space, you decide whether it should be shared or whether you want it as private data. Right? And any data that you gather, again, with groups, this is a policy you need to set among your groups. Right? But the provisioning, the technology provisioning will be done by MYREN. And Farida, we guarantee you we won't charge you 2 years later for your data. Okay, so that was a good question. I think the panelists have given good input. Any other panelists would like to say anything, or shall we move on to the next question? Okay, can I have Liana, can we take one more question? We can, right? One more question from the floor. Last question, and again
Hello. Thank you for the impressive answers from the panel. According to Dr. Sohemi, he mentioned about the federation and security. I think all the scientists and science community are looking for what exactly are the new trends. Is it the federation and the security is our priority? And so the connectivity and the network is the thing every research center they needs. So I'm just wondering, for example, focusing on the federation and the identity, the one Dr. Sohemi he mentioned, is it the thing will help researchers, will help scientists, and what about the new trends, like using the cloud infrastructure, or there's something we can help? So my question is, how this concept will help people in the education party? Thank you.
Okay, so this question is targeted at you, so you need to answer that. It's on identity federation.
Yes, I'm done. What is the question again?
Okay, identity confusion? No.
What is the priority, right? Federation or what do you call that?
I think the question was, what is the advantage? Why you need it, right?
Okay. You have difficulty in sharing. I'm not talking about sharing as compute sharing is being one of them. I'm giving you an example. The prime reason why people have some challenges or some difficulty or some apprehension to share is because they don't trust. And the general notion why you don't trust is because I do not know who you are and what you are going to assess. So to address who you are is by virtue of identity vetting. So by identity vetting, by that, it's kind of very long thing to explain. You can go to the booth. But basically, if I say Suhaimi is Suhaimi, I must have somebody like UPM who vouch that Suhaimi is Suhaimi by virtue of artifact binding. Meaning to say, I have my name, my face, my IC in the HR system of UPM. And when I'm assessing anything around the world, local or overseas, each time I must be able to be authenticated from my home organization, irrespective, every transaction. Okay? So that the moment you do that, then I will have a trace that Suhaimi has logged in, and they really know that Suhaimi is the real Suhaimi that assessing the data. Now, that is authentication. Authorized is another. Whether Suhaimi is able to be authorized to have access to a certain data is another matter which is actually governed by the data provider. So by knowing who access what at what time and for what purpose, you create a trust and identity in which hopefully the spirit of sharing will be realized, and that is human. Network security is a different thing. Maybe you will need to talk about network security. So to answer your question directly, what would be the benefit? The benefit is for you to be able to have that.
Thank you very much for your impressive answer. So I would say yes, for example, the Estonia, they make like a federation, one ID key for whole nation. Yes. All the people get access information traced just by one IC number. So is it the thing the education part you're looking for? Yes, of course, we want to share some data, and it's really required and really crucial to see what kind of data to share and how the data share and how secure is data. Of course, we have a lot of security teams and companies in the world, and during the last 15 or 20 years, there were a lot of trends in security. But the thing is it the security, this kind of thing, really beneficial for education? Some kind of now the scientists, it's been 2-3 years I'm in this field, scientists are suffering a lot from infrastructure, from resources. But I respectfully object these things, which is the security doesn't solve anything about how accelerate the research in the research community. Network, yes, of course. Like you can see the using the technology like in cyber performance. It helps a lot, but just security will solve all our problems. That was my original question.
Okay. Let me go with you ISO 29115, which is not being ratified in Malaysia yet. It has been ratified. You look at ISO IEC 29115. It is not ISO IEC 27001. That is ISMS. You check. It's not being ratified in Malaysia. Entity and access governance. Okay, now, talking to you directly, what is the benefit of you being so secure? I'm not saying about the benefit of saying so secure. In the ISO IEC 29115, there are 3 levels, or 3 or 4, 3 levels of security. No security Facebook account where you can anonymize. You can be somebody, Suhaimi, but nobody is going to vouch. Facebook or Google not going to vouch saying that Suhaimi is Suhaimi. At this level 0. Now, level 1 is when some form of organizational identity vetting. Level 2, multi-factor authentication. Level 3 is X509 Kerberos certificate. I'm not saying that I'm going to impose X509 certificate KEBROS for normal educational entity. It may be necessitate only level 1, but certainly not level 0. You see the difference? Level 0, Facebook. Level 1, organizational vetting. Level 2, two-factor authentication. Level 3 is actually X509 KEBROS. You know very well about X509 KEBROS. I'm not going... Sorry. I'm not going... Oh, well, I'm not going... Well, we are not. I'm not saying I, but we're not going to put X509 KEBROS to actually have access just a simple cloud service. No. But we want is a tiered according to the level. If you want better security, and in fact now, level 0 is definitely out of the question. Nobody will be able to allow level 0. Level 1, okay for some. But now they are going into a multi-factor authentication because people are now beginning to actually getting a little bit clever. Ordinary people becoming a little bit clever in hacking. So I don't think it will go for X509 KEBROS for education. Definitely not. So you have to look at it. Is it necessary? To me, personally, it is necessary, but the right level of assurance must be in place. Don't put X509 KEBROS for a normal one. That's my answer.
So that's a very passionate answer from Suhaimi, and you don't look very satisfied. So I would advise you later to sit down with Suhaimi over a cup of coffee and settle whatever ideas the two of you have moving forward. And any other questions? Liana? Liana says no more time. We have time or not? No more time. Liana, you want to ask one question? We'll give you the honor of asking the last question. No questions? We are technologies moving forward, right? So the theme of this panel, Liana, what's the theme again? High technology nation building. So MYREN towards high technology nation building. I want to close this panel session by asking each one of the panelists what he thinks about that. MYREN towards building our country's making our country high tech, right? The building of that. Starting with Kamal. How will MYREN contribute to that?
I think from the operation side, we are looking at servicing the group, the cream of the cream group as far as research is concerned, and the generation as well. Folks from polytechnics, community colleges, hospitals, museums, cultural centers, connected to this dedicated infrastructure. Connectivity, bandwidth is actually one thing, but I think the other thing is actually getting this high quality content. And may not be a quality at one point of time, but will be a quality content, quality resource data to the whole community of research and education. So I think being that focus providers, it's how MYREN contribute to a high tech nation.
Thank you, Kamal.
Okay, just a quick one. Like I said, MYREN, we're going to do more than what we have at MYREN Cloud now. So we're going to make sure that every needs in terms of virtual machine, in terms of servers, in terms of storage, in terms of say some form of security, multi-level security, trust and sharing. This is where the future for nation building. We would be able to have cyber infrastructure that will enable research as well as education. Thank you.
My hope is that MYREN will be able to support the interconnection of minds that develop not only the best science and technology, but also the best human in terms of the way we conduct our life, the way we interact others, and the way we do our business. in a very civilized, a very ethical way, and that is how should be regarded as a developed country. Thank you.
I love that observation from Sohaidi, sorry. Right? It's also a networking of people. Always remember that. So MYREN, while we are a network, computer network, we are also a networking of people, networking of minds. Thank you, Sohaidi.
Yes, I want to end this very simply in the sense that I think as we move into a nation building, very important, a nation building means people, and nation building also means peace. And it is a hope that with MYREN, I think we talk so much about technology, must never forget that where there is high tech, there is always high touch. And to ensure that with a high technology, one must never forget that the heart must be connected. Absolutely crucial in high touch. Ensuring that the technology that we use is going to touch the people, which is so important that it must touch the people and must not destroy peace in the world. Thank you so much.
I would have to say that with MYREN's slogan to move into high technology nation building is to take advantage of the technology in order for us to contribute in terms of nation building through preserving and archiving cultural heritage, because a nation without culture is not a nation for the future. So we are working towards having the members of this working group work together to help preserve the culture of today for tomorrow using high technology. Is that okay?
Very good.
Okay, for me, simple. This is the network that belongs to all of us. So you must be part of it. And you should be also one of them to help to develop the nation. So let us all work together towards developing a high-tech nation.
On our part, I think in terms of nation building, I think education is the key, and that if we're looking at all of you here and your children or our grandchildren, the next generation, it's important to be inclusive in education. And I think online learning, distance learning has a big role to play. I think one of the things we sometimes, issues we face probably at maybe at the Ministry of Education level also is in terms of, let's say, accrediting a lot of the online courses. That's another administrative issue. But I think we have the technology, we have the experts, we need the connectivity, okay, and we need to include remote and rural areas, okay, across East and West Malaysia.
Thank you. So we have heard very interesting things from our panelists on the future. I would just like to add one little thing. Always think positive. So moving forward, in order to achieve a nation that is futuristic, that we are advanced, we need to think positive. Right? Always think that you have an idea, you can do it, you can achieve it. There's always going to be news, especially with researchers. Recently, we have heard of budget cuts, universities don't have enough research funding. Kick all that out of your mind. Never mind. Work with what you have. We have enough. We're not so bad, really. So let's focus on moving forward, cut out the negatives, focus on the positive, and aim towards building a high technology nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sureshwaran and our panelists.